Tonight, we are talking about when your adult child refuses to move forward. Hey there, I am Jonathan. I am a family therapist. I am an addictions counselor, and I'm the one that hosts this group. So if you're new to this group, and I know we have a lot of new members this last week, welcome. I want to talk about those moments when your adult child refuses to move forward, right? I'm talking about those moments where they keep telling you they're going to take that next step, right? They're going to apply for that job. They're going to update their resume. They're going to start moving their life forward, but then days turn into weeks. And every time you ask, there's another reason why it didn't happen. I remember talking to a parent recently. Their adult child had been saying for weeks they were going to fill out a job application, right? Every conversation ended the same way. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to I'm going to eventually get to it. I'm working on it, right? Until finally the parent had had enough, right? Because it clearly wasn't happening time after time, and they looked at their adult child and said, "Okay, get up right now, sit down at the computer and start filling out applications." And I remember they told me their child just looked at them. Their adult child looked at them and said, "No, I'm not going to do it. You can't force me." In moments like that, right, there are usually two things happening inside of a parent. The first one is that they begin to second guess themselves. Am I being too harsh? Maybe I'm expecting too much from them. Should I give them more time? Am I being controlling? Right? These things start going through parents' minds and they wonder if they're the problem. And then the second thing that begins happening is emotions begin to build, right? The frustration, the anger, the tension. It's thoughts like, how dare they say that to me? How dare they talk to me that way? I'm not putting up with this anymore. I've had enough. And before long, they're no longer responding thoughtfully, right? They're reacting emotionally. And actually, in both situations, it's more of an emotional reaction that's happening. I believe that's where many parents get stuck, right? Instead of reacting, I want to encourage you to slow down and ask yourself two questions. The first question is, why are they refusing, right? Why aren't they moving forward? What's happening underneath that behavior? Are they overwhelmed? Are they anxious? Are they ashamed because they have failed before, failed so many times? Are they afraid of rejection? Right? What's going on there? Or maybe they have simply become comfortable letting someone else carry their responsibility. You never really know until you get curious. So you need to take that time and take a moment and say, okay, why is this happening? Why aren't they moving forward? Why are they refusing? What is really going on? And that's a logical question, not an emotional question, right? Now, that doesn't mean you excuse the behavior. It means you're trying to understand it before you're deciding how to respond because it makes a difference. Like the real reason makes a difference, right? And then you need to ask the second question. Why is this step important for my adult child? I mean, like, why are you asking them to do this? Why does this keep coming up? Why is this important, right? Why does it matter that they apply for a job? Why does it matter that they follow through with whatever that thing is? You're going to come to this, right? Because adulthood is built on one responsible choice at a time. That's what you're asking of them, right? You're asking them to keep their commitments, to follow through, right? Doing hard things even when you don't feel like it, right? That's an important lesson. Now, before you go, before you go and have another conversation with them, uh, I want you to think about those two whys, right? Calm down, slow down, take a moment and say, okay, why are they stuck? Why are they refusing? And why is this step so important? Because those two questions help you get grounded, right? Instead of reacting emotionally, it gets your head in the game. Why are we going to talk about this? Why is this important, right? And how do you approach it? Those questions prepare you for a conversation that has a much better chance of leading somewhere productive, right? So I would actually like you to begin with curiosity, right? Like go into that conversation with your adult child and really try to understand. You can say things like, I've noticed you've been having a hard time following through. Right? Help me understand what's going on. And then you listen. Right? I mean, you really listen. You really try to understand what's going on because that's often where you'll hear the anxiety. You'll hear their fear. You'll hear their self doubt. And maybe even a misunderstanding that's been driving their resistance all along. Right? They legitimately don't understand something. They're misunderstanding something. They're not getting it. Right? And there's a disconnect in what you're trying to teach, what you're trying to guide, what you're asking, and how they are seeing or understanding the situation. You don't know until you know, right? So remember, the goal is not like you're not trying to win an argument here. Your goal is uh, to understand them, but really, your goal is to help them understand themselves. You're trying to help them believe in themselves. You're trying to help them see that they really can move forward. So, understanding doesn't mean you agree with them, it simply means you're taking time to understand where they're coming from. And that really matters because people are much more willing to hear your perspective if they feel heard themselves. So, understand them, listen to them, be curious, like really legit. They're like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm refusing. Or they're clearly not doing something. Why is this going on? Right? That's the conversation. That's the first part of the conversation. Why is this going on? Okay, you said no. Right? I'm being kind of funny because uh, I don't expect you to be that calm, but maybe you are. Right? Okay, you said no. Why? Right? Why are you saying no? What's the problem here? And then you move to the second part of the conversation, right? This is where you're clear, right? You're clear on what needs to happen and why you're asking this. So you might say something like, I understand why this feels difficult now. I understand why you're anxious, but this is still your responsibility. Or you say, I love you. I want to help you, but here's what my help looks like now. If you are actively taking steps to manage your responsibilities and move your life forward, then I'm all in, right? I'll encourage you, I'll support you, I'll help you any way that is right, right? Any way that I can. But if you're choosing not to take those steps, then it's no longer my responsibility to carry your responsibilities for you, right? It's those are your responsibilities. I'm here to help you become more independent. That's how this works. I'm not here to keep you comfortable so you can just stay in the same place. Right? My job is to build your life, not to become the reason you don't have to. Ooh, that's a good line. Right? Think about that. Your job is to help them build their life, not become the reason they don't have to. Right? So when they're not participating in that process, that's where you need to make this conversation clear. That's what a boundary is, right? It's not punishment, it's not control. It's simply being honest about where your responsibility ends and theirs begins. Your adult child is now responsible for building their life. You are no longer responsible for carrying it for them. You were there to coach, you were there to encourage, you were there to support. You're helping them when they're actively participating in moving their own life forward. You see how that goes? Right? They're moving forward, they're trying, right? Even if it's not going the way that you would do it, at least they're trying, at least they're moving forward. You want to support that, you want to encourage that, right? But if they choose not to participate, they are choosing the natural consequence that comes with that decision, right? That's not you rejecting them. You're not rejecting them. What are you rejecting? You're rejecting nothing, right? You're there to help them. They are the ones that are choosing. I don't want to participate in this, right? That's really you respecting the fact that they are now an adult. I'm not going to control you. I'm here to help you. And here's what that help looks like. You can take it. But if you're not taking it, well, here's what that looks like as well. Right? I'm not here just for you to be comfortable. I'm here for you to move forward. So let's be real here. This is the part that is really difficult for parents, for real, right? When you stop rescuing, when you pull out that role of keeping their life comfortable, when you stop carrying responsibility that belongs to them, their anxiety is going to increase, right? It might look like frustration. They might become angry. They're going to tell you that you're being unfair or that you're being controlling and you don't care. That's exactly the moment when many parents begin to doubt themselves. Maybe I am being too harsh. Maybe I should just help out this one more time. Maybe I'm making things worse by talking about this or holding a line. Maybe I should just wait, this will blow over. That's where the doubts come in, right? And that's where a lot of parents back down, give up, and don't push forward, right? Because we don't want to see our kids struggle, and we certainly don't want to be the cause of that. But here's what I want you to remember: your child's increased anxiety is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. Right? In many cases, it's the evidence that they're being asked to carry responsibility that they've been avoiding. Right? So you're doing the right thing, right? When their anxiety increases, it's because they're not avoiding it, right? They're having to confront it. And at first, they're likely going to blame you. They're going to put it on you because they see you as the one that can take away that anxiety by just paying the bills, by looking the other way, by putting up with their behavior. And when you stop doing that, it puts it back on them. You're defining a boundary right there, right? This isn't mine. This is yours. I'm not carrying this for you. I'm not taking care of this. Now the responsibility is on them. Their anxiety can increase. But that's how it goes, right? Growth almost always comes with discomfort. Almost as in, like, always. Think about your own life. Most of us didn't grow because our life stayed comfortable. We grew because we faced responsibility, sometimes kicking and screaming and hating every minute of it, but then we figured out how to solve that problem. And then we learned we were capable, right? That's exactly what you want for your adult child. You're not withholding love. You're not withholding love. You're not withholding care, right? You are changing the kind of help you're providing. That's the difference. It's a different approach. You still love them, you still care about them, you're giving them all of that, right? But you're taking a different approach. Instead of protecting them from adulthood, right? You're preparing them for it. You're saying, hey, this is yours. And that is one of the most loving things a parent can do. But for real, the difficult part is that your adult child usually can't appreciate it while they're going through it, right? They're too focused on what feels hard. They're too focused on what they're losing in their mind, right? They're too focused on the responsibility that they're now being asked to carry. But one day, right? One day, when they're standing on their own, when they've built confidence because they've learned to solve problems themselves, when they've discovered that they're actually capable of more than they believed they were. That's when many adult children look back and they realize my parents weren't trying to control me, they were trying to prepare me. Right? So if you're facing one of those moments this week, right, one of those moments where your kid's not moving forward, one of these moments where your adult child is refusing or is angry at you or pushing back because you're trying to really help them, right? Remember this: don't react, get curious. Seek to understand what's underneath that resistance. Then be clear about your boundaries. Lead with care, lead with honesty. And don't mistake your child's discomfort or even your own anxiety, right, for evidence that you're doing something wrong. Right? Your child is going to experience discomfort and you are going to experience anxiety because you care, right? That's the sign right there. I've told many parents that the sign that you're the fact that you're so anxious about this shows that you love them, that you care about them, right? If you didn't have this anxiety, well, if you didn't care, if you didn't love them, if you were just this cruel, mean, hateful person, you wouldn't be feeling anxious about it, right? You're worried because you're connected to them and you want the best, right? It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Don't take it that way. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to stop protecting our adult children from the weight of adulthood, right? That lets them discover the strength and confidence that comes from carrying it themselves, right? You're showing compassion, you're showing your love, your care when you step out of that role of protecting them and carrying everything and allow them to learn to do that themselves. I emphasize that because I know it comes with a lot of struggle, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension. It's not an easy thing to do, but that's why I emphasize it because I want you to remember that's you being a loving parent, especially with your adult child. Now, I know, like always, there are so many questions, right? There are so many different situations. Like, what about this, Jonathan? And what about that? And you didn't cover this. And how does that apply to this? I know. Uh, that's why we have this group. That's why I want you to stay involved. That's why I want you to get on my email list. And there are, I know I've been saying this, but there are more supports coming that I'm going to make available that we can dig deeper into your situation. So I will be letting you know more about that as we have the opportunity. But as always, thank you guys for uh, sticking in this process, in this group of learning and growing and supporting each other. Right? We're here for each other. So I appreciate you. I love you. God bless. I will talk to you later.